First, we'll start by understanding business objectives and strategic priorities. Second, identifying business performance gaps and opportunities. Third, moving from business questions to analytical hypotheses. Fourth, building a business measurement framework. Fifth, breaking down leading versus lagging indicators. Sixth, establishing baselines, benchmarks and performance targets. Seventh, defining measurable success criteria. Eighth, understanding business context before analysis. Ninth, selecting the right level of analysis. 10th, defining analytical scope and boundaries. 11th, managing assumptions, constraints and dependencies. And 12th, bringing it all together by designing an analytical measurement plan. Let's start the video with topic number 1. Business Measurement and Analytical Framing. Step 1. Understanding business objectives and strategic priorities. The purpose is to understand what the business wants to achieve before starting the analysis. First, identify the organization's main goals and priorities. Then, understand whether the focus is on growth, profit, efficiency, customer experience, or risk reduction. Next, convert broad business goals into measurable objectives. Connect analytical work with the decisions the business needs to make. And finally, focus analysis on problems that can create real business value. The simple flow is business goal to analytical focus to business decision. Step 2. Identifying business performance gaps and opportunities. The purpose is to find where actual business performance is different from expected performance. First, compare actual results with expected results or targets. Then, measure how large the performance gap is. Next, identify where the gap occurs, whether it's related to a product, region, customer group, channel, or time period. It's also important to separate temporary changes from recurring problems. Finally, use these performance gaps to identify opportunities for improvement. The simple formula is expected performance minus actual performance equals performance gap. For example, if the target conversion rate is 8%, but the actual conversion rate is 5%, the performance gap is 3 percentage points. Step 3. From business questions to analytical hypotheses. The purpose is to convert broad business questions into specific ideas that can be tested with data. First, start with the business question. Then, identify the possible reasons behind the problem. Next, convert those reasons into measurable hypotheses. Determine what data is required to test each hypothesis. Finally, use evidence to either support or reject the hypothesis. The simple flow is business question to hypothesis to data test to evidence. For example, if the business asks, why are sales declining? One possible hypothesis is that sales declined because repeat purchases decreased. Now, we can use data to test whether that hypothesis is actually true. Step 4. Building a business measurement framework. The purpose is to create a clear structure for measuring business performance. Begin with the business objective. Then, select the KPIs that represent success. Next, identify supporting metrics that explain KPI movement. Define relevant dimensions, such as region, product, customer, and channel. Finally, establish targets or benchmarks for evaluating performance. The simple framework is objective, KPI, supporting metrics, dimensions, and target. For example, if the objective is to improve retention, the KPI could be retention rate. A supporting metric could be repeat purchases. The relevant dimension could be customer segment with a target of 85%. This framework connects business objectives with measurable performance. Let's compare leading and lagging indicators, two important types of metrics used to understand business performance. Leading indicators provide early signals of future performance. They help teams take action before the final results appear. Common examples include website visits, product trials, and customer engagement. These indicators help predict future outcomes, can be influenced through marketing, operations, and strategy, and are useful for planning, forecasting, and early decision-making. On the other hand, lagging indicators measure results that have already happened. They show whether business objectives were actually achieved. Examples include revenue, profit, churn rate, and customer retention. These metrics confirm final performance, cannot be changed once the measurement period is over, and are mainly used for performance evaluation and historical analysis. The key difference is simple. Leading indicators help us anticipate what may happen, while lagging indicators tell us what has already happened. To evaluate business performance correctly, we need meaningful points of comparison. That's where baselines, benchmarks, and targets come in. A baseline tells us where performance currently stands. It represents the starting point and helps measure progress over time. For example, current monthly sales might be $500,000. A benchmark compares performance against a standard, such as the industry average, competitors, best practices, or historical performance. For example, an industry average conversion rate of 6% helps us identify performance gaps and improvement opportunities. A target defines the desired future performance. It gives the team clear direction and a measurable goal, for example, achieving an 8% conversion rate. So, compare actual performance with the baseline, benchmark, and target to understand whether performance is improving or declining. The key takeaway is simple: a number alone has little meaning without the right context. Once business objectives are clear, the next step is to define measurable success criteria, in other words, clearly deciding what success should look like. Start by converting vague goals into measurable outcomes. Choose the right metrics, define the expected level of improvement, and set a clear time period. Most importantly, the success criteria should directly connect to the business objective. A simple way to remember this is, metric plus target plus time period equals measurable success. For example, instead of saying, improve customer retention, define it clearly as, increase customer retention from 78% to 85% within 6 months. This makes success specific, measurable, and easy to evaluate. Before analyzing any data, it's important to understand the business context behind the numbers. Start by learning how the business and its processes work, including its customers, products, channels, and markets. Also consider factors like seasonality, promotions, pricing changes, external events, and recent business changes, because these can directly affect the data. Most importantly, avoid drawing conclusions from numbers without understanding why those numbers changed. For example, a sudden increase in sales may look positive, but if it was caused by a temporary festival discount, it may not represent long-term business growth. So, good analysis begins not just with the data, but with the business context surrounding it. The right level of analysis helps us understand where a business problem is actually happening. Start with overall performance, then go deeper by breaking the data into meaningful dimensions such as region, product, or time. This helps identify patterns and specific areas that require attention. The key is to maintain the right balance. If the analysis is too broad, important problems may remain hidden. If it is too detailed, it can create unnecessary noise and reduce clarity. For example, overall sales may appear stable, but deeper analysis could reveal that sales are declining in one particular region. Start broad, go deeper where needed, and analyze only to the level that supports a clear business decision. Once we know the right level of analysis, the next step is to clearly define the analytical scope and boundaries. Start with the specific business question, then select time period, customers, products, regions, channels, metrics, and datasets. At the same time, clearly document what is outside the scope so the analysis stays focused. For example, if the objective is to analyze online customer churn in India during the last 12 months, we include relevant churn metrics and customer datasets, while excluding offline customers, international markets, and unrelated analysis. The key idea is simple: a well-defined scope prevents unnecessary analysis and keeps the work focused on the business decision that needs to be made. During analysis, 3 important factors can affect the reliability of our results: assumptions, constraints, and dependencies. Assumptions are things we accept as true, such as believing the available data is accurate and up-to-date. Constraints are limitations like missing data, limited time, or restricted system access. Dependencies are things the analysis relies on, such as another team, system, dataset, or external data provider. For example, if offline sales data is unavailable, that is a constraint. If inventory data comes from another team, that is a dependency. And if we consider the available online sales data to be complete, that becomes an assumption. These factors should always be documented clearly and communicated to stakeholders, because they can directly affect our conclusions and next steps. Finally, we bring everything together by designing an analytical measurement plan before the analysis begins. First, define the business objective and analytical question. Then select the main KPIs and supporting metrics, and identify the required data sources and dimensions. Next, establish the baselines, benchmarks, and targets, followed by the appropriate analysis period and comparison method. Finally, decide how success will be evaluated and communicated to stakeholders. A well-designed measurement plan gives the analysis a clear structure and ensures that every metric and comparison directly supports the business objective and decision-making process.
Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue to learn, grow, and succeed together.